It was a cold autumn morning. The sky hung heavy with gray clouds, and the trees swayed in silence, their leaves scattered across the streets like forgotten memories. In the corner of a busy city, life moved on with its usual rush. People hurried along the sidewalks, barely making eye contact, lost in their own worlds. No one noticed the old man sitting quietly near the bus stop, his coat too thin for the chill and his shoes worn down to the sole. He didn't ask for help. He just sat, his hands tucked into his sleeves, his eyes fixed on the ground. The world moved around him, but he remained still, like a page skipped over in a book everyone else was too busy to read. His name was Samuel, though no one knew it. Once a school teacher, once someone who taught kids how to write their names and dream beyond their neighborhood. But now, years had passed, and life had taken things from him, his wife, his home, his voice in a world that no longer listened. On that morning, as people pushed past him, a teenage girl named Lily exited the bakery across the street. She was carrying a brown paper bag with a warm cinnamon roll inside, something she bought every Saturday before her art class. She wore headphones and her backpack hung low on her shoulder. She was like every other person until she looked up. Something made her stop. She saw the old man, his face lined with age and quiet sadness. He wasn't begging. He wasn't even looking at her. But something in his stillness felt loud. She stood for a moment, hesitant. Then she crossed the street, paused in front of him, and crouched down without saying a word. She took the cinnamon roll from the bag and offered it to him. Samuel looked up slowly. His eyes met hers, surprised. He opened his mouth as if to speak, but no words came out. She smiled. He accepted the roll with both hands, holding it like it was something precious. He nodded. She nodded back. Still not a word was spoken. And then, just like that, she stood and walked away. The moment was small, quiet, and forgotten by everyone else. But for Samuel, it became something more. He hadn't been noticed in weeks, maybe months. That simple gesture, that small act of kindness, reawakened something in him. He stayed at that bus stop for a while longer, and when he stood to leave, his shoulders were just a little straighter. His steps just a little lighter. Lily didn't know it, but that simple gift she gave, a warm roll and a moment of acknowledgement, planted a seed in Samuel's heart. The next morning, he returned to the same spot with a half-cracked smile and an idea. He pulled from his worn coat a small notepad he kept tucked away, something he hadn't touched in years. And with a borrowed pen from the cafe nearby, he began to write again. Poems. Thoughts. Little stories. Every day he sat at that bus stop, handing out small folded notes with kind words to strangers who passed. Most didn't notice. Some crumpled the paper without reading. But once in a while, someone paused. Someone smiled. A child read a poem and ran back to hug him. A tired office worker teared up from a note that simply said, "You matter." Word began to spread. People began to call him the quiet poet. A local journalist heard about him and approached with a camera. Samuel, shy and unused to the attention, simply said, "I just write to remind people they're seen. That they're still human." The article was published. Photos of his handwritten notes appeared online. Suddenly, people began coming to that bus stop not just to wait for a ride, but to find him. To hear his soft voice. To take a note. To leave one in return. The bus stop became a little sanctuary of hope in a city too fast to pause. And what of Lily? Weeks had passed since that morning, and she had gone on with her life, never thinking much of what she had done. But one afternoon, she was walking home from school and passed by that same bus stop. She stopped in her tracks. There was a small group of people gathered around an elderly man who looked familiar. Her heart skipped a beat. She stepped closer. Samuel looked up. Their eyes met again. He smiled warmly and reached into his bag. From it, he pulled a small, folded note and handed it to her. She opened it. In shaky handwriting, it read, "You changed my life without saying a word. Thank you." Her eyes welled up. In that moment, Lily realized something powerful. Kindness didn't need noise. It didn't need recognition. Sometimes, the quietest gestures echo the loudest in someone's heart. She knelt beside him and hugged him gently. Around them, the city continued its rush. But in that small circle of silence, everything slowed. The story didn't end there. Lily started a project in her school called the Silent Note. Students were encouraged to write anonymous, kind notes and leave them in lockers, desks, or school bags. The idea spread. Notes were found saying things like, "Your smile made my day, and you are not alone." Teachers noticed a change. Students became gentler, more present, more human. Other schools caught on. A movement began, all sparked by one silent act of kindness. A cinnamon roll, a warm glance, a wordless moment that rippled across lives. And Samuel? He became a local legend. Not for any grand speech, but for his soft way of reminding people to be gentle with one another. He continued writing every day, now with stacks of notepads donated by the community. People came from all parts of the city just to talk to him, to hear a poem, or leave a story of their own. On the first anniversary of that morning, Lily organized a citywide event called the Day of Quiet Kindness. No speeches. No loud announcements. Just people leaving notes, food, and smiles all across the city. That morning, the city was unusually silent, but it was the kind of silence that was full of warmth. Of meaning. Of connection. That evening, Samuel sat at the same bus stop. The sun had set in golden colors. He looked around and saw strangers helping each other, people hugging, kids handing out drawings. He closed his eyes and smiled. He had once believed his story was over. But kindness had written him a new chapter. Sometimes, the most powerful moments are not spoken. They are felt. So if you ever wonder whether a small act can matter, remember Samuel. Remember Lily. And remember that even silence can be an act of love. Thank you for watching this story.